Get out of my club. The voice was ice, the kind that freezes your blood mid-flow. I pressed myself harder against the expensive wool coats surrounding me in the darkness, barely breathing, wondering how my life had come to this. Hiding in a stranger's closet while my psychotic ex-boyfriend hunted me like prey. "I don't think you understand," another voice said, warmer but somehow more dangerous. "When my brother tells you to leave, it's not a suggestion." Through the tiny crack in the closet door, I could see two men, twins clearly, both tall, both devastatingly handsome, in that dangerous way that should come with warning labels. The one on the left wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair slicked back, his expression carved from marble. The one on the right had loosened his tie, his matching dark hair slightly messy, and his eyes held a fire that made my stomach flip. This was not how tonight was supposed to go. 6 hours earlier, I'd been fine. Well, fine was a relative term. I'd been surviving, which was the best I could manage these days. Working the closing shift at Bellini's Cafe, wiping down tables, trying not to think about the fact that I was sleeping on my friend Jordan's couch for the 3rd week in a row, moving my stuff every few days like some kind of fugitive, all because of Marcus. Marcus Webb, my ex-boyfriend, who'd somehow convinced himself that our breakup 14 months ago was just a rough patch we needed to work through. Marcus, who showed up at my apartment so many times I'd had to break my lease. Marcus, who got me fired from 2 jobs by causing scenes. Marcus, who made my skin crawl every time I saw his number pop up on my phone. Tonight, he'd found me again. I'd been carrying a tray of dirty cups back to the kitchen when I saw him through the front window, just standing there on the sidewalk, watching, waiting. My hands had started shaking so badly I nearly dropped everything. "Kai, you okay?" my manager Teresa had asked. I wasn't okay. I was never okay anymore. But I'd nodded, finished my shift with my heart hammering against my ribs, and tried to slip out the back exit. Marcus had been waiting there too. "Baby, we need to talk." Those 4 words. I'd heard them 100 times, and they never led anywhere good. I'd run. Just bolted like a spooked animal, leaving my bag, my jacket, everything. I'd run through the back alley and straight through the first door I found unlocked, which turned out to be the service entrance to Nero's, the ultra-exclusive club next door. The kind of place I'd never be able to afford to even look at the menu. I'd heard footsteps behind me. Marcus asking the staff if they'd seen me. So I'd done the only thing I could think of. I'd hidden. Ducked into the first door I found, which happened to be a coat closet in what I now realized was some kind of VIP lounge. And that's where I'd been for the last 10 minutes, surrounded by coats that probably cost more than my entire semester's tuition, trying not to have a panic attack. Then the twins had walked in. "The shipment from Castellano arrives Tuesday," the cold one was saying. "I don't trust his numbers. Luca, I want you to be there personally." "You think he's skimming?" the warmer one, Luca, apparently replied. I think everyone skims if given the opportunity. That's why we don't give them opportunities." They'd been discussing something that sounded distinctly illegal when I'd made my fatal mistake. I'd shifted my weight, and my elbow had knocked against the closet wall. The cold one, the one who wasn't Luca, had gone silent mid-sentence. Then he'd walked directly toward the closet, and my heart had stopped. When he'd yanked open the door, I'd literally fallen out, landing on my hands and knees on plush carpet that probably cost more per square foot than I made in a week. "I can explain," I'd gasped, looking up at them. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. There's this guy, my ex, and He was following me, and I just needed somewhere to hide for a minute. And I swear I wasn't trying to steal anything or listen to anything private. I was rambling. I always rambled when I was terrified. Luca had raised an eyebrow, something like amusement flickering across his face. The other one, the cold one, had just stared at me with those calculating dark eyes, like he was running through every possible reason I might be hiding in his closet and determining which ones were lies. "Stand up," the cold one had said. I'd scrambled to my feet, very aware that I was wearing my cafe uniform, black pants with a coffee stain on the knee, and a white button-down that had seen better days. I probably smelled like espresso and anxiety. "What's your name?" Luca had asked, his voice gentler. Kai Rivers. I work next door at Bellini's. I'm really sorry. I'll just..." That's when Marcus had burst through the door. I'd like to say I stayed calm. I didn't. The second I saw him, everything in me went cold, and then hot, and then cold again. My vision tunneled. My breathing stopped. "There you are," Marcus had said, and his voice was the one he used when he was trying to sound reasonable, but was actually furious. "Kai, what the hell? You ran out on your shift." "I finished my shift," I'd managed to say, hating how small my voice sounded. "Don't lie to me." He'd crossed the room in 3 strides, and suddenly his hand was around my wrist, tight enough to hurt. "We're leaving. Now. We need to talk about this ridiculous phase you're going through. Let go of me." "You don't get to run away from me, Kai. What we don't have anything. We broke up over a year ago. You need to leave me alone." His grip had tightened. "What's mine is mine. You don't get to decide when we're done. I decide that." That's when everything changed. I'd been so focused on Marcus, so trapped in that familiar cycle of fear and helplessness, that I'd almost forgotten the twins were there. But they definitely hadn't forgotten about me. "Remove your hand." The cold one's voice could have flash-frozen the sun. "Now." Marcus had looked up, finally registering that we weren't alone. "This doesn't concern you. This is between me and my boyfriend." "Ex-boyfriend," I'd whispered. "He's not your anything," Luca had said, and he'd moved with a speed that shocked me. 1 second he was across the room, the next his hand was locked around Marcus's wrist, prying his fingers off me, with what looked like minimal effort, but made Marcus actually wince. "And if you ever put your hands on him again, you'll lose the use of them, permanently." Marcus had stumbled backward, cradling his wrist. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone you don't want to mess with," Luca had replied, and something in his tone made Marcus's face go pale. The cold one had stepped forward then, positioning himself slightly in front of me. I hadn't even realized I'd been shaking until I felt his presence there, solid and unmovable, like a wall between me and Marcus. "He's with us," the cold one had said. Simple. Final. "Leave. Now. If you come back, if you contact him, if I even hear that you've been in the same zip code as him, it won't end well for you. You can't just..." "We're the Moretti family," Luca had said, and Marcus's face had gone from pale to gray. "In case you're unfamiliar, I'm Luca Moretti. This is my brother Dante. And trust me when I say you really don't want to test how serious we are right now." I didn't know who the Morettis were, but Marcus clearly did. He'd looked at me one more time, something ugly and possessive in his eyes, then turned and walked out without another word. The silence after he left was deafening. I'd stood there, shaking, not quite able to process what had just happened. These 2 strangers, these dangerous, powerful strangers, had just faced down Marcus like it was nothing, like protecting me was the most natural thing in the world. Thank you, I'd finally managed. I should go. I'm sorry for the trouble. Sit down, Dante, the cold one, had said. It wasn't a suggestion. I'd sat. Luca had poured 3 glasses of something amber from a crystal decanter and handed me one. Drink. You look like you're about to pass out. I'd taken a sip. It burned going down, but it also steadied me. I'm really sorry. For hiding in your closet. For bringing my drama into your space. For how long has he been stalking you? Dante had asked, cutting through my apologies. It's not, stalking is a strong word. How long? The way he'd looked at me made lying impossible. 14 months, since we broke up. At first it was just texts and calls. Then he started showing up places, my apartment, my work, the university. I had to break my lease because he kept breaking in. I've been fired from 2 jobs because of the scenes he causes. I've moved 4 times. I'm running out of friends willing to let me crash with them. Where are you staying now? Luca had asked. A friend's couch. But I need to move again soon. Marcus is getting closer to finding me each time. The twins had exchanged a look. One of those silent conversations that twins supposedly have. An entire dialogue seemed to pass between them in seconds. Stay in our guest house, Dante had said. Temporarily, until this situation is resolved. I'd almost laughed. I can't do that. I don't even know you. You know we just scared off your stalker ex-boyfriend, Luca had pointed out. You know we have resources. You know you're not safe where you are now. Marcus knows where you work, Dante had added. He found his way into our club, past security. You're not safe alone. I can't just impose on strangers. You can, and you will. Dante's tone left no room for argument. One night, if you hate it, we'll arrange alternative security for you. But you're not going back to hiding on couches and looking over your shoulder. I'd wanted to argue. I'd wanted to maintain some shred of independence. But the truth was, I was exhausted. Exhausted from running, from being afraid, from the constant vigilance that had become my life. One night, I'd agreed quietly. That had been 3 hours ago. Now I was sitting in what they called a guest house, but was actually nicer than anywhere I'd ever lived. It was a converted carriage house on their estate. And yes, estate was the right word. The property was massive, with actual gates and security guards and landscaping that probably required a full-time staff. The guest house had exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, a kitchen with appliances I didn't know how to use, and a bedroom with a bed so large and comfortable, I'd actually sighed when I sat on it. There was a knock on the door. When I opened it, Luca was standing there with a bag. Your things, he said, handing it to me. We sent someone to collect them from your friend's place. Jordan, right? Nice guy. Very protective of you. Threatened to call the cops on us until we explained. I'd looked in the bag. Everything was there. My clothes, my laptop, my sketchbooks. Even the stupid stuffed elephant I'd had since I was 12 and refused to throw away. You didn't have to do this. We wanted to. He'd leaned against the door frame, all casual strength and warm eyes. Get some sleep, Kai. You're safe here, I promise. After he'd left, I'd stood in the middle of that beautiful space and cried. Not sad tears, relief. For the first time in over a year, I felt safe enough to fall apart. I'd showered, changed into the clean clothes I hadn't had to carry in a garbage bag, and climbed into that enormous bed. Sleep had claimed me almost instantly. When I woke up, sun was streaming through the windows, and there was a cup of coffee on the nightstand that hadn't been there when I fell asleep. Next to it was a note in elegant handwriting. "Good morning. Coffee's fresh. Breakfast is in the main house when you're ready. You're safe here. L." I'd picked up the coffee cup. It was exactly how I liked it, with cream and 2 sugars. How had he known? I'd gotten dressed and made my way to the main house, following the path through the gardens. A woman in her 50s had answered the door, Maria, the housekeeper, who'd introduced herself and led me to a dining room that looked like something from a magazine. Dante had been sitting at the head of the table, reading a newspaper, looking like he'd already been awake for hours, despite it being 7 in the morning. He'd glanced up when I entered. "Sit. Eat." Not "good morning." Not "how did you sleep?" Just commands, delivered in that cool, detached voice. I'd sat. Maria had brought out enough food to feed 10 people. Eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, pastries, pancakes. "I can't eat all this." "Eat what you want." Dante had turned a page of his newspaper. "You're too thin." I'd bristled at that. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You've been living on stress and coffee for months. Eat." There was something about the way he said it. Not mean, exactly, but absolutely certain, like he'd assessed the situation and determined the solution and expected compliance. I'd eaten, and the food was incredible. Luca had appeared 20 minutes later, fresh from what looked like a workout, his t-shirt clinging to a physique that made my mouth go dry. "Morning." He'd been all sunshine and energy, in direct contrast to his brother. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in months, actually." "Good, that's good." He'd grabbed a plate and piled it high with food, then sat down next to me, close enough that our arms brushed. "So Dante and I were talking. We think you should stay longer than one night." "I can't." "Hear us out," Luca had said. "Marcus knows where you work. He knows where your friends live. He's escalating, Kai. The wrist-grabbing thing yesterday? That's physical aggression. It's going to get worse. He's never actually hurt me. Yet." Dante had lowered his newspaper. "He's never hurt you yet. But stalkers escalate. Always. You need protection until this is resolved." "I can't afford." "We're not asking you to afford anything," Luca had interrupted. "Stay here. No rent, no obligations. Just stay until we figure out how to handle Marcus permanently. Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me." The twins had exchanged another one of those looks. "Let's just say we don't like bullies," Luca had finally said. "And we have the resources to help," Dante had added. "It would be wasteful not to use them." That had been a week ago. One night had become 2, then 3, then 7. I'd tried to leave twice, insisting I was imposing, but both times something had happened. Marcus showing up at Bellini's and being escorted out by security. Marcus sending me 37 texts in 1 hour, each more unhinged than the last. So I'd stayed, and I'd started to learn about the twins. Dante left at 6 every morning, always in a 3-piece suit, always with his hair perfectly styled, always with that same cool, controlled expression. He handled the business side of their family operations, which I'd learned included luxury hotels, high-end security firms, and some other ventures they were vague about. Luca trained every morning in their home gym, then spent his days managing security and what he called personnel issues. He came home with bruised knuckles more often than not, but always smiled when he saw me. They were dangerous men. I knew that. I wasn't naive, but they'd never made me feel unsafe. The opposite, actually. Dante showed care through actions rather than words. He'd noticed I was running low on art supplies and had an entire professional grade set delivered. He'd seen me struggling with my laptop, ancient and barely functional, and had somehow arranged for the university to provide me with a new one through a scholarship program. I suspected he'd funded himself. Luca was more openly affectionate. He brought me coffee every morning, exactly how I liked it. He asked about my day and actually listened to the answers. He'd started teaching me self-defense, just in case, which mostly involved him finding excuses to put his hands on me while adjusting my stance and me trying not to combust from the contact. I was falling for them, both of them, which was insane. I'd been sitting in the garden, working on a sketch when my phone had buzzed. Unknown number. I'd almost ignored it, but something made me open it. The message had been a photo of me, sitting right there in the garden, taken from outside the estate walls. The caption, "Nice place, but walls can't keep me out forever. We're not done, Kai." My hands had started shaking so badly, I dropped the phone. That's when everything had changed. Because Dante had been walking through the garden and had seen my face. He'd picked up my phone, read the message, and his expression had gone from neutral to absolutely murderous in half a second. "Luca," he'd called, his voice deadly calm. "We have a problem." And now, sitting in Dante's office with both twins standing over me like avenging angels, I realized that my one night in their guest house had become something else entirely. Something that was about to explode. "How did he get past our security?" Dante's voice was glacial, as he stared at the photo on my phone. I was sitting in his office, a room that screamed power with its dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and a desk that probably cost more than a car. Luca was pacing like a caged tiger, his earlier warmth replaced by barely contained fury. "He didn't get past anything," Luca growled. "He took the photo from outside the walls. See the angle? He's using a telephoto lens from across the street." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" Dante set my phone down with deliberate care. He knows where Kai is. He's watching. This ends now. I felt small in the leather chair across from Dante's desk. So small and stupid, and like I'd brought a disaster into their lives. I should leave. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid. Dragging other people into my mess. "You're not going anywhere," both twins said simultaneously. The unity in their voices startled me into silence. Dante leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Tell us everything about Marcus Webb, and I mean everything. Where he works, who his family is, what leverage he might have, what threats he's made. All of it." So I told them. I told them how I'd met Marcus during my sophomore year at the university. How he'd seemed charming at first, successful, attentive, generous. How the charm had curdled into possessiveness within months. How he'd isolated me from my friends, criticized everything I did. Tom made me feel like I was crazy for being uncomfortable with his constant monitoring of my phone, my schedule, my life. I told them about the breakup, how I'd finally worked up the courage to end it, only for Marcus to refuse to accept it. How he'd cried and begged and promised to change. How, when that didn't work, he'd turned angry. "His family has money," I explained. "Old money. His father owns Webb Properties, commercial real estate all over the city. Marcus works in the family business, vice president of something. He's used to getting what he wants." "Webb Properties," Dante repeated, and something flickered in his eyes. "I know the company. We've had dealings with them." "Of course you have," I muttered, because apparently everyone in this city was connected somehow. "What's his greatest vulnerability?" Dante asked. "What?" "Everyone has one. What's his?" I thought about it. His reputation, his image. He's obsessed with how people see him. The perfect son, the perfect businessman. The perfect boyfriend. That's why he can't accept that I left. It damages the narrative he's built. Luca stopped pacing. So if his precious reputation were threatened, he'd do anything to protect it. I finished quietly. Dante's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his jaw tightened. Marcus just requested a meeting. Here. Tonight. My stomach dropped. What? How? He sent a formal request through our business channels, claiming he wants to resolve a misunderstanding regarding a mutual acquaintance. Dante's lip curled slightly. Bold. Stupid. But bold. You can't let him come here, I said, panic rising. He's dangerous. He might... Kai. Luca crouched in front of my chair, taking my hands in his. His touch was warm, grounding. We're not afraid of Marcus Webb. Trust us. This is actually perfect. How is this perfect? Because now, we confront this on our terms, Dante said. In our space. With our rules. He wants a meeting? He'll get one. But it's not going to go the way he expects. I don't want you two in danger because of me. Luca actually laughed at that. Sweetheart, we eat guys like Marcus for breakfast. He's a privileged bully who's never faced real consequences. We're going to educate him. Luca, Dante said warningly. What? It's true. Dante stood buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. Kai, you'll be present for this meeting. In fact, your presence is essential. But you need to trust us to handle it. Can you do that? I looked between them, Dante with his cold calculation and Luca with his fierce protectiveness, and realized I did trust them. Completely. Which was terrifying because I'd only known them a week. Okay, I whispered. Good. Dante checked his watch. He'll be here at 8. That gives us 3 hours to prepare. The next 3 hours were a masterclass in strategic planning. Dante made phone calls, each conversation brief and efficient, gathering information. Luca reviewed security footage and made arrangements with their security team. I mostly sat there, trying not to have a panic attack. At 7:30, Maria brought dinner to Dante's office. I couldn't eat. My stomach was in knots. Eat, Dante commanded, pushing a plate toward me. I can't. You can, and you will. You need your strength. Dante, I really don't think... He circled the desk and crouched down, putting us at eye level. It was the closest he'd ever been to me. Close enough that I could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Marcus has controlled you through fear for over a year, he said quietly. Tonight that ends. But I need you strong. I need you clear-headed. I need you to eat this food, take a breath, and remember that you're not alone anymore. Can you do that for me? The gentle intensity in his voice made my throat tight. I nodded and picked up my fork. Luca sat down next to me, his presence solid and reassuring. That's it. Good. We've got you, Kai. Always. At 7:55, the intercom on Dante's desk buzzed. Mr. Moretti, Marcus Webb is here. Show him to the conference room, Dante replied. He looked at me. Ready? I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. The conference room was designed for intimidation. Dark walls, a massive table, leather chairs that probably cost more than my entire education. Dante sat at the head of the table, radiating power in his perfectly tailored suit. Luca stood near the door, arms crossed, looking like exactly what he was. Dangerous. I sat to Dante's right, trying to appear calm while my heart tried to escape my chest. When Marcus walked in, I had to fight the urge to run. He looked the same, tall, clean-cut, expensive suit, that smile that had once charmed me, and now made my skin crawl. His eyes found me immediately, and something possessive, and ugly flashed across his face. "Kai, baby," he started. "Sit down, Mr. Webb," Dante interrupted, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "And don't address him directly. You're here to speak with us." Marcus's smile faltered. He sat across from me, his gaze never leaving my face. "I appreciate you gentlemen agreeing to this meeting. I think there's been a significant misunderstanding." "Enlighten us," Lucas said, from his position by the door. "Kai and I have been in a relationship for 3 years. We've hit a rough patch, every couple does. But this situation has gotten out of hand. I understand he's been staying with you, and while I appreciate you offering him shelter, I think it's time he came home." "We broke up 14 months ago," I said, finding my voice. "There is no home to come back to." Marcus's expression hardened. "See, this is part of the problem. Kai's been under a lot of stress with school and work. He's not thinking clearly. He needs support, not enablers who encourage this delusion that we're not together." "Delusion?" I felt anger spark through the fear. "You've been stalking me for over a year, breaking into my apartment, getting me fired, harassing my friends. That's not a relationship, Marcus. That's harassment. I've been trying to help you by sending threatening messages." Luca pulled out his phone. "Should I read some of them aloud? You can't hide from me. What's mine stays mine." "I'll make you sorry for embarrassing me like this." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Those were taken out of context." "And the photo you sent today?" Dante asked. "The one taken of Kai in our private garden with the caption about walls not keeping you out forever? What's the context there?" For the first time, Marcus looked uncertain. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't insult our intelligence," Dante said coldly. "You've been watching him, stalking him, terrorizing him. And now, you've made the mistake of bringing that behavior to our attention. With all due respect, Mr. Moretti, this is between Kai and me. I came here as a courtesy to explain the situation. But frankly, it's none of your business. It became our business when you put your hands on him in our club," Lucas said, his voice low and dangerous. "When you started taking photos of him on our property. When you threatened someone under our protection." Marcus stood abruptly. "I don't have to listen to this. Kai, we're leaving. Now." "Sit down." Dante didn't raise his voice, but the command in it was absolute. Marcus stayed standing. "You can't keep him here against his will." "That's kidnapping." "I'm staying by choice," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I want nothing to do with you, Marcus. I've told you that repeatedly. Why can't you accept it?" His mask cracked. The smooth businessman veneer fell away, and underneath was something desperate and mean. "Because you don't get to make that choice. Do you understand what I've invested in you? The time, the money, the effort. You were nothing when I met you. Some scholarship student from nowhere. I made you into something. You owe me." "I don't owe you anything." "You ungrateful." He lunged toward me. He didn't make it far. Luca moved with a speed that shocked me, intercepting Marcus and slamming him back into his chair hard enough that it scraped across the floor. "Try that again, and you'll be leaving here on a stretcher." Marcus rubbed his shoulder, genuine fear flickering across his face. "You can't threaten me. My father." "Your father," Dante interrupted, "is going to be very interested in the dossier we've compiled on you. Tell me, does he know about the DU as you've had expunged from your record? The harassment complaints from 3 different women that were settled quietly. The embezzlement from the company accounts that you've been covering up with creative bookkeeping?" Marcus went pale. "How did you—" "We have resources you can't imagine," Dante said. and we've spent the last 3 hours using them to dig into every aspect of your life. You're not nearly as clean as you pretend to be. This is blackmail. This is a choice. Dante leaned forward. Option 1, you leave. Tonight. We have a business associate in Singapore who needs an assistant for a year-long contract. You take that position. You stay out of the country. And more importantly, you stay away from Kai. Completely. No calls, no texts, no social media, nothing. When you return in 12 months, Kai will be none of your concern. And option 2? Marcus asked through gritted teeth. Option 2, we release everything we've found to your father, your company's board of directors, and several interested journalists. We file a restraining order with all the documentation we've gathered of your stalking behavior. We make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person Marcus Webb really is. Your reputation, your career, your standing in your precious family. All of it disappears. The silence was suffocating. Marcus looked at me, something broken and angry in his eyes. You're really going to let them do this? After everything we had? We didn't have anything, I said quietly. You had control, and I had fear. That's not love, Marcus. That's abuse. And I'm done being afraid of you. He sat there for a long moment, his hands clenched into fists on the table. Then, finally, he stood. Fine. Singapore. When do I leave? Your flight is tomorrow at 9 a.m., Luca said. Our people will escort you home to pack and then to the airport. If you miss that flight, option 2 goes into effect immediately. Marcus walked to the door, then turned back. You think you've won. But people like you, he looked at me with pure contempt. You'll always need someone to take care of you. You'll never be enough on your own. The words hit like they were meant to, finding all my old insecurities. But then Dante stood, and his presence filled the room. Get out, while you still can. Marcus left. The door closed behind him, and I felt my knees go weak. Luca was there immediately, steadying me, guiding me back into my chair. It's over, he said softly. He's gone, Kai. He can't hurt you anymore. I couldn't speak. A year of fear, of running, of looking over my shoulder, and it was over, just like that. You're shaking, Dante observed. He poured something amber from a decanter and handed it to me. Drink. I drank. It burned, but it also grounded me. The things he said at the end, I managed, about me never being enough, are the desperate words of a man who just lost everything he thought he owned, Dante interrupted. Don't give them power. But what if he's right? What if he's not? Luca took my free hand. You survived a year of hell from that man and came out the other side. You're stronger than he could ever understand. I looked at them, these two dangerous, powerful men who'd taken on my problems like they were their own. Why did you do all this? Really? They exchanged one of their silent looks. At first, Luca said slowly, because you needed help, and we could provide it. That's what we do. Protect people who need protecting. And now? I asked. Now, Dante said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. It's more complicated. How? Luca squeezed my hand. Kai, this past week, having you here, it's changed things. You've changed things. My heart was hammering for entirely different reasons now. What do you mean? I think you know what he means, Dante said. Those dark eyes locked on mine. I did know. I'd felt it too. The way Luca found excuses to be near me. The way Dante's icy control cracked when I was around. The way both of them looked at me sometimes like I was something precious. This is crazy, I whispered. I've only been here a week. I'm a mess. My life is a disaster. You two are, I gestured vaguely. You're powerful and put together and way out of my league. Says who? Luca challenged. Says reality. Says common sense. Says Kai. Dante moved closer, and suddenly he was right there, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. Let me be very clear. We don't do anything we don't want to do. We didn't protect you out of obligation. We did it because from the moment you fell out of that closet, scared and brave and rambling, something in both of us shifted. We want you to stay, Luca added. Not as a guest, not out of protection. We want you here because we can't imagine waking up and not seeing you at breakfast. We can't imagine this house without you in it. That's insane, I breathed. Probably, Dante agreed, but that doesn't make it less true. I looked between them, my heart doing acrobatics in my chest. Both of you? You both? Yes, they said together. I don't understand how this would even work. Neither do we, Luca admitted with a crooked smile. But we'd like to figure it out, if you want to. I'm broken, I said, needing them to understand. Marcus messed me up. I have trust issues and anxiety, and probably a dozen other problems I haven't even processed yet. I'm not whole. Dante cupped my face with one hand, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. The gentleness from this man, who was usually so cold, made my breath catch. None of us are whole, he said quietly. We're all broken in different ways, but maybe we could be broken together. And maybe, Luca added, kneeling in front of my chair so I was surrounded by both of them, we could help each other heal. I should have said no. It was too fast, too complicated, too impossible. Instead, I said, I want to try. Luca's smile was like sunrise. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away, and pressed his lips to mine. The kiss was gentle, warm, perfect. Everything Marcus's kisses had never been. When he pulled back, Dante was watching us, with an intensity that made me shiver. My turn, he said, and it wasn't a question. His kiss was different, harder, more demanding, but somehow just as caring, like he was claiming me and cherishing me at the same time. When we finally broke apart, all three of us breathing hard, Luca laughed. So that's a yes to staying? That's a yes, I confirmed, and felt the last piece of fear from Marcus finally break apart. I was free, and I was exactly where I wanted to be. Nona's going to eat you alive. Luca was grinning as we drove through the city 3 months after that night with Marcus. I was pressed between him and Dante in the back of their car, a position I'd gotten very comfortable with, trying not to panic about meeting their family. Helpful, Luca. Very helpful, I muttered. She's going to love you, Dante said, from my other side, his hand resting possessively on my thigh. Stop worrying. Easy for him to say. So he wasn't the scholarship student about to meet the matriarch of one of the most powerful families in the city. He wasn't the person in an unconventional relationship that would probably raise some eyebrows. The last 3 months had been the best of my life. After that night, after the kisses and the confessions, we'd established what we were to each other. It hadn't been easy. There were awkward conversations about boundaries and expectations and how exactly a relationship between 3 people was supposed to function. But we'd figured it out together. Dante showed love through actions. He dealt with my university enrollment issues when financial aid got complicated. He'd made sure I had everything I needed before I knew I needed it. He'd hired a therapist for me. Not because you're broken, but because everyone should have support after trauma. And hadn't blinked at the cost. Luca showed love through presence. He was there for everything. Coffee in the morning, walks through the garden, late-night conversations about nothing and everything. He'd taught me self-defense until I could actually hold my own. He made me laugh when the weight of everything felt too heavy. And I'd learned to let myself be loved. It hadn't been easy. There were days when the trauma from Marcus surfaced, when I flinched at sudden movements or panicked when someone raised their voice. Days when I couldn't believe this was real, that they actually wanted me. But they were patient. They were understanding. And slowly I was healing. I'd moved from the guest house into the main house 2 weeks ago, into their room, their bed, seen that massive custom bed that fit 3 people perfectly. The twins' bedroom had become our sanctuary. It was where Luca would read aloud while I sketched and Dante worked on his laptop, where we'd spend lazy Sunday mornings tangled together, where they'd hold me when nightmares about Marcus woke me up. I'd started painting again, really painting, not just sketching. Dante had converted one of the estate's outbuildings into a proper studio for me. Luca had started commissioning pieces for their hotels, claiming they needed original art with actual soul. My paintings had started appearing in their properties, and people were noticing. I had an actual agent now. Gallery interest. The possibility of a career I'd only dreamed about. Everything was perfect. Which was why I was terrified of meeting Nonna Rosa. The Moretti family dinner was held at their grandmother's house. A beautiful estate that made the twins' property look modest. Cars lined the driveway, expensive ones. "How many people are coming to this?" I asked. "Just family," Luca said. "So maybe 20. 20 is not just family." "In Italian families it is," Dante said, opening his door. "Come on. Best to get it over with." We walked in together, and conversation died. I'd expected this. The stares, the whispers. 3 men walking in together, clearly together based on body language alone. I'd worn the suit Dante had bought me. He'd claimed I needed proper clothes for family dinners. And I tried to project confidence I didn't feel. An elderly woman emerged from the crowd. She was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, but commanded the room with presence alone. Nonna Rosa. She walked straight to me, ignoring her grandsons entirely, and took my hands in hers. Her eyes, the same dark eyes as her grandson's, studied my face. "So," she said in accented English, "you are the boy who makes my grandsons smile." Yes, ma'am, I'm Kai." "Kai," she repeated, testing it. Then, without warning, she pulled me into a hug. "Welcome to the family, Caro. About time someone made those 2 happy." The relief was so intense I almost laughed. When she released me, Luca was grinning. "Told you," he mouthed. The rest of the family wasn't quite as immediately accepting, but they were polite. The twins' younger sister, Arya, was the friendliest. She cornered me within 10 minutes. "Finally," she said. "They've been insufferable their whole lives. Dante with his Ice Prince routine, Luca with his overprotective bodyguard thing. You've actually made them human." "I don't know about that." "Trust me. Last week I caught Dante humming. Humming. I didn't even know he could." I'd laughed at that. The dinner was massive. Course after course of incredible food, wine flowing freely, conversations in rapid Italian that I couldn't follow but enjoyed listening to. Dante kept his hand on my knee under the table. Luca kept finding excuses to touch my shoulder or my back. Halfway through dessert, Nonna Rosa tapped her glass for silence. "I want to make a toast," she announced, "to family, to love, to finding happiness in unexpected places." She looked directly at me. "Kai, you are welcome in this family. Always. Anyone who makes my grandson smile like that has a place at this table." There was a murmur of agreement, glasses raised. I felt my throat get tight with emotion. After dinner, we escaped to the garden for air. The night was cool, stars visible above the city lights. "That wasn't so bad," I said. "You were perfect," Dante replied. "Though I'm pretty sure Cousin Marco thinks we're going to hell," Luca added cheerfully. "Marco thinks everyone's going to hell," Dante countered, including himself. We walked in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the peace. Then Luca stopped, and something in his posture made me pause. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." He exchanged a look with Dante. "Actually, something's very right. You're being cryptic." "We want to ask you something," Dante said, and there was a nervousness in his voice I'd never heard before. "Okay." They guided me to a stone bench, and then, to my complete shock, they both knelt in front of me. "What are you— Let us get through this before you panic," Luca said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Dante pulled out an identical one. My heart stopped. "Kai," Dante began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "3 months ago, you fell into our lives, literally. We expected to help you and move on. That's what we do, but you changed everything. You made us want more," Luca continued. "More mornings together, more late nights, more of everything. You made us realize that what we had, just the two of us, was incomplete. We can't legally marry you," Dante said. "Not all 3 of us. The law hasn't caught up to what we've built together. But we can promise you forever anyway. We can promise to protect you, support you, love you for the rest of our lives," Luca added. "We can give you these rings and ask you to be ours, officially, permanently." They opened the boxes simultaneously. 2 rings, one from each of them. Matching bands with intricate designs I recognized from my art. Pieces I'd drawn that they'd somehow had crafted into jewelry. "Will you marry us, Kai?" they asked together. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only feel the overwhelming love crashing over me like a wave. "Yes," I finally managed through tears. "Yes, of course, yes." They slipped the rings onto my finger. Then I kissed them both, not caring that we were in their grandmother's garden where anyone could see. "We have a plan," Dante said, when we finally pulled apart. "For the wedding. Nona's getting ordained online. She's very excited about it. We'll have a ceremony here, on our estate. Nothing huge, just family, just us. We know it won't be legally binding for all 3 of us," Luca said, "but it will be real. It will be ours." "When?" I asked. 3 months? Dante suggested. "That gives us time to plan properly." "And for you to not panic about it being too fast," Luca added with a grin. 3 months. I'd known them for 6 months total. It was insane. It was perfect. The engagement period flew by in a blur of planning and preparation. The twins insisted on custom everything. Suits, rings, even commissioned a piece from a composer for the ceremony music. I painted, constantly, working through my emotions on canvas, creating pieces that captured what they meant to me. Dante commissioned every single one for a special gallery opening he was planning. Marcus was in Singapore. We'd received one email through his lawyer, formal, cold, informing us he was complying with the agreement. After that, silence. My therapist said I was making good progress, that the nightmares were decreasing, that I was genuinely healing. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not too hot, a breeze that made the garden decorations dance. I got dressed in the guest house, where this had all started, looking at myself in the mirror. The suit was midnight blue, perfectly tailored, with subtle embroidery that matched the rings. I looked happy, healthy, whole. There was a knock. When I opened the door, both twins stood there, matching tuxedos with subtle differences. Luca's tie matched my pocket square. Dante's cufflinks matched my rings. "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony," I protested. "Traditional weddings have a lot of rules that don't apply to us," Dante said, stepping inside. "We wanted a moment, just the three of us." Luca closed the door behind them. "Before everything gets crazy out there, we wanted to tell you something." "You've already given me everything," I said. "What else is there?" "That you saved us too," Luca said simply. "We were going through life, managing the family business, doing what was expected, but we weren't living, not really. You taught us what it means to build something for ourselves," Dante added. "Not for the family legacy or business obligations. Something real. You made us want a home instead of just a house," Luca finished. I kissed them both, careful not to mess up our carefully styled appearances. "We should go. Everyone's waiting." The ceremony was in the garden, where I'd received Marcus's threatening photo. We were reclaiming that space, turning it from a place of fear into a place of joy. Chairs were set up for maybe 30 people, family only, as promised. Flowers everywhere. String lights even though it was midday, because they were magical. Nonna Rosa stood at the altar in her best dress and a sash she'd had made that said, "Official Efficient." She was taking this very seriously. We walked down the aisle together, no one giving anyone away because we were all choosing this equally. The ceremony itself was short but powerful. Nonna Rosa spoke about love in all its forms, about building family beyond blood, about the courage it took to choose happiness over convention. Then came the vows. Luca went first. "Kai, I promise to always be your safe place, to make you coffee in the morning and hold you through nightmares, to laugh with you and protect you, and remind you every day how strong you are. I promise to love you exactly as you are, while supporting who you're becoming. Always." Dante's were simpler, but just as devastating. "Kai, I promise loyalty, partnership, forever. I promise to use every resource I have to make your life easier, your dreams possible, your happiness guaranteed. You are mine, and I am yours. That will never change." Then it was my turn. I looked at both of them, these men who'd saved me, and let me save them right back. "Luca, Dante, I promise to bring light into your world, the way you brought safety into mine. I promise to paint our story in every color I can find. I promise to be brave enough to accept your love, even when my past tells me I don't deserve it. I promise to make this house a home, to fill it with laughter and art and all the messy, beautiful chaos of living. I promise forever, with both of you, always." We exchanged rings. I gave them matching bands I'd designed. They'd already given me mine. 3 rings for 3 people choosing to be one family. "By the power vested in me by the internet," Nonna Rosa declared with barely contained glee, "I pronounce you married. In the eyes of God, this family, and everyone who matters, you are bound together. Now kiss already before I cry." We did. All 3 of us, tangled together, sealing promises that mattered more than any legal document could. The reception was a blur of food and music and dancing. At one point, all 3 of us danced together while everyone watched, and I didn't care. Let them stare. This was our life, our love, our choice. As the sun set, we escaped to our bedroom, the same one I'd been so nervous about entering that first time. Now it was ours, truly ours. We stood together on the balcony, watching the last guests leave, the catering staff cleaning up, the world moving on while our world had just changed forever. No regrets? Luca asked, echoing the question from months ago. I looked at my husband's, one warm and open, one cool and steady, both completely, utterly mine. Not a single one. Dante pulled me close. Luca wrapped around us both, and we stood there as the stars came out. Three people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way and built something beautiful from the chaos. 1 year later, I had my first major gallery showing. 20 paintings, all inspired by the twins, by our unconventional family, by the journey from fear to love. The centerpiece was titled The Closet, a painting of an open door with light streaming through, two figures silhouetted in the entrance, one figure stepping out of darkness into that light. It sold before the opening even ended. Marcus never came back from Singapore. He'd actually built a life there, found a therapist, started dealing with his issues. I'd gotten one email, short, formal, apologizing for everything. I'd written back, just as short. I forgive you. Be better. Closure, my therapist said, was important, but moving forward was more important. The twins and I had breakfast together every morning, Dante with his financial papers, Luca planning security, me sketching ideas for new paintings. We still slept in that massive bed, still finished each other's sentences, still dealt with confused looks from people who didn't understand. But we had each other. We had our family. We had a home built on trust and healing and love that refused to follow anyone else's rules. And every time I walked past that closet in the club, the one where this all started, I smiled. Because sometimes the best things in life come from the moments when we're most afraid. Sometimes hiding leads to being found. Sometimes falling apart is how we discover who's there to catch us. And sometimes love doesn't look the way we expected, but it's perfect anyway. If you enjoyed Kai, Dante, and Luca's unconventional love story, there's more where this came from. Subscribe to the channel for more LGBTQ+ romance stories featuring Mafia romances with heart and heat, unexpected love in dangerous places, found family and chosen bonds, characters who break all the rules to find happiness. Comment below. Which twin was your favorite? Team Dante or Team Luca? Want a bonus chapter about their honeymoon? What kind of BL story should we tell next? Like this video if you believe love has no boundaries. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new story drop. Remember, your love story doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be real, beautiful, and worth celebrating. Thanks for reading, and see you in the next story.